obviously we get a lot of questions about equipment on the show, and we have strived in earnest to align ourselves with companies that we think will benefit you. And the question of, do I need a new driver, comes up to me all the time. The reality is that you may not. The reality, because this is the part that people don't realize. There's marketing involved in the selling of golf clubs. I mean, that's a celebration of the obvious. But there are only 3 pieces to a club: a head, a shaft, and a grip. Now, we've been telling you nonstop about the Revel grips from Superstroke because they use classic designs with modern technology, and as a result, you get grips that are revolutionary. They are brand new. They're just out on the market. Okay? Well, we've knocked out that piece. Oftentimes, I find that people are playing with the wrong shaft. And I'll tell you a couple ways that I know. Say you're playing with a decent golfer, somebody that shoots anywhere, their average score could be anywhere from 85 up into the low 90s on average, right? Pretty good. And some days they play really well and they might shoot an 84 or 85 and they feel great about it. Maybe this golfer is, for example, on the taller side. And I've heard this conversation a million times. They'll say to me, this club I got from my father-in-law or my brother or whatever it is what the source was. And they say, when I swing it nice and smooth, I absolutely kill the ball. But there's something wrong with my swing because a lot of times when I hit it, it goes low and left. I just sit there and listen. I don't say too much unless somebody asks about it, to be honest with you. But if they ask about it, the first thing I'd look at with that is your shaft is probably too weak. And the issue is that you shouldn't, in your golf swing, try to adapt your swing to your equipment. Your equipment should be adapting to your swing. So the reason why that's going low and left is because of the way that shaft is bowing and torquing coming into. And usually what happens is, say you're in a heated competition, maybe it's match play, and you get up there and everything's working, everything's flowing. You're reacting to target. You're not playing swing at that time. And you're hitting, you get this low left hook. The guy's like, oh, I didn't do my nice, smooth, easy swing. No, it's because you're starting to groove and starting to swing and you're capable of putting speed into the golf ball. And that's the reason why that,
Johnny is with us
in a shaft is very much like a door opening and closing. So we're going to talk about that in just a few seconds here. We're going to be joined by a young player, new in the world of golf, at least on the professional level, that is already doing remarkable things. This is a player that I would dare say is a name that if today is one of the first times that you've heard it, you're going to hear it many, many more times. And this player's performance speaks to itself. We're going to hear that player speak in just a little bit here in the Fairways of Life show as well. And we're just going to continue down the line. This week, remember, there's only 5 events left. I always get a kick out of it when we talk in any context about the big numbers that players are chasing on the PGA Tour. Inside the top 50 for signature events next year. Inside the top 70 so you get into the FedEx Cup playoffs. Inside the top 100 so you're fully exempt for next year because that number's changing, right? Well, what about they call him a superstar every time. It's like the adjective that's attached to Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler's not playing like a superstar, even though he's gotten into 6 of the signature events. He's gotten in through sponsors exemptions. That's a whole other question of whether you think that that's fair that he be able to do that, given the performance that he's having on the PGA Tour. Although he's had a couple of good events of recently, his body of work, his average finish on the PGA Tour this season is 43rd. So we're going to hear from Ricky coming up to discuss that and where his mindset is with that. Aki Yorihiro is a co-founder and Chief Technology Officer for Newton Golf Shafts. And I'm super excited to have Aki on the program this morning. Aki, welcome into the Fairways of Life show. It's good to have you here.
Oh, good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Are you a beach guy?
I am actually not a beach guy. I'm coming to Dominic's defense. I like doing things too. What can I say?
Well, what did you think
See, that's
about
what I'm
the putting
talking
on the
about,
beach
guys.
idea? Yeah, I know, Dom. I knew you were going to come in. What did you think about the putting on the beach?
I thought that was excellent. See, I would
Okay.
do that,
Look,
right?
he's trying to appease
So,
us.
yes, thank you.
Well, you know what? I mean, with that, you guys, this was where I was going to start, but we were talking about putting on the beach. You have your gravity putters, right? And how is that going? Talk to us about the gravity putters and what's going on with them.
Well, gravity putters are doing excellent because it's very different, right? Our putters are very different. We call it gravity because we're trying to capture many aspects of gravity that come into play in putting. So I think one of the things that we've noticed is, listen, a lot of us have, 10, 20, 40, 100 putters in our garages. And we don't play well, we go seek out another putter, and then on you go, on and on. So, but the problem is the physics of most of the putters that are on the market are all the same. And so, whether you have a mallet, whether you have a blade, they're basically about the same weight, the physics are about the same. And so, to me, that's the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the result, right? And so I think there's been some newcomers that have tried different theories around putting, and I think that's catching on. Our philosophy is low balance point, which is a lot of weight on the putter head, but our shaft and the grip are very light. So you can actually kind of pendulum it much easier. And you were talking about coming down the pipe. 18th hole, you're in match play, there's a lot of pressure, these things start to fail us, we get a little tight around our hands. We want to embrace gravity, because if you take the club back, it's going to get pulled back by gravity. We believe in proper center of gravity within the head, so like vertical center of gravity, lateral center of gravity, all these things that we kind of focused on that I don't think other people are quite focusing on the same way we are. So in that respect, usually when somebody picks our putter up, they usually end up with it. And then for us, it's a matter of getting that message out to the world so that if you're struggling with putting, we all do, but make it a little bit easier for yourself. Harness gravity. Gravity can be your friend in putting.
Yeah, and when that gravity is combined with Yaki's technology in terms of how the club is weighted, technology in terms of how the club is balanced through a stroke, then you've got extremely high MOI. That stands for moment of inertia, that's stability at the moment of impact, because not all of us hit in the center of the club face. The way my eyes work, for example, I tend to hit just north of center. So if you have a better MOI putter, you're going to have that putt start on your intended line more often. And because of this, the way that they do the weighting, you've got this far more of less oscillation, zero torque, which is a technology that is amazing. Combine that with everything else that Yaki's talking about, and these gravity putters can help you sink more putts. Use that gravity to pull the ball down into the hole. All right, your new fast motion shafts. It's been making a tremendous amount of noise lately, at all levels of the game, I should say, Aki. But let's start from the presumption that people don't know anything about what we're talking about with Newton golf shafts. And if you could start us from step one so people understand.
Sure. Thank you. So we started out as a putter company, but we launched a series of driver shaft in November of 2023. And we make everything ourselves. We have our own factory in Missouri, St. Joseph, Missouri. And we use exclusively Toray carbon fiber. It's Japanese carbon fiber technology. So we launched with what we call a Newton motion shaft.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Hold on, go away, Siri or somebody. And And so we launched, we're doing very, very well. And then, I spent all of last year on the Champions Tour, and I think we got over 30 players to put it in play. We work with colleges, we work with amateurs. We have a couple of unique features around the motion, which is the bend profile is a little bit wider, and so you can store a little more energy. But I think more importantly, you can feel the loading really, really well, and people are able to time it better. And so consequently, you're going straighter, longer, less effort. Most of us like those kinds of things. And we did really well that first year. This year, we launched what we call a fast motion, which is the slightly lighter version of the motion. On average, about 7 to 10 grams lighter than the motion. So if you have, it's like a 50-gram range stiff shaft versus a 60-gram stiff shaft. And so we launched it a couple months ago, but we've been testing it on the tours. We've been testing it on the LPGA Tour. We've been testing it on the Champions Tour. And it has really caught on fire, which is, it's just amazing. So I think these days on the Champions Tour, it's a field of 78. We're representing over 20% of the field. We've had 2 wins in the last 4 weeks. It's just been, so it's working really, really well. And we're tickled to death.
That's awesome. When you talk about a 360 symmetrical design and the storage of kinetic energy, how do we translate that to something someone sitting at home goes, yeah, that sounds like something I would want and I need?
Right. So on the 360, unless you have a Callaway tip, right? And then these days, all the drivers have, the screw in the back, and you have the setting where you're rotating that shaft, right? So Callaway is fixed, so you're not rotating the shaft on the Callaway, but every other manufacturer, you're rotating that shaft. Now, that's one thing. You go to a fitter or a club builder and you say, hey, I want this shaft, will you build it for me? They're going to offer you a spining service or a piering service, right? And the explanation is, look, shafts have spines, and so you want to line it up to your setting so that you can get maximum performance out of the shaft and the driver combination. Well, what if you start rotating it, right? You're going to go off spine. I was at the Senior U.S. Open in Colorado at the Broadmoor last week, and pretty much every single player changed their driver setting to 1 click up or even 2 click higher loft to add more spin in the thin air that we were in. And so, if you had a spiny shaft and you were to do that, now you're off spine and the shaft's just going to feel differently, right? So who wants that? In terms of the kinetic energy storage, that's kind of a really fancy way of saying that the bend profile is wider, because anytime the carbon fiber shaft bends, you're storing energy, because when you let it go, it's going to unravel itself or straighten itself. And if you can bend more of the shaft, you are going to be storing more energy, right? It's kind of a simple concept. I think heretofore, it's harder because you start to lose control if you were to bend all of the shaft. And so that's why we came up with this very unique backbone system that allows us to bend it wider without losing control. And I think the proof of the pudding is in player reaction and the fact that people are switching to it. I think on the Champions Tour, listen, they are not paid to play equipment, but they will play the equipment that will make them perform the best. They will never switch if they don't like the Newton motion shafts or the fast motion shafts better than what they've previously had. And I think that's what we're seeing is they're feeling it, they're seeing the difference, So the 360 is working, the kinetic energy storage is working. So far, so good.
And I'm sure, Aki, there are many people that are intimidated by the idea of changing out a golf shaft in their club. To some people, that sounds like they might as well be launching a satellite into space. But as you noted, with the tool on the bottom of your driver, for example, that you can release that screw and pull the shaft out, it's really not that hard. How do we ensure that people get the golf shaft that's right from them, from Newton?
Right. So we have a fitting chart on our website, and it'll tell you, if your speed is such, if you're carrying such, if you're currently swinging, what kind of a shaft. We go by a dot system, so instead of going from regular or flex or X, things like that, we do 1 through 7 dots for stiffness. So we're more like a Project X. The reason being that a lot of us, when we were younger, we're swinging stiff shafts or X shafts even. And as we get older, we don't want to let it go because it's kind of an acceptance of defeat, that we're getting older. I see a lot of players who should be swinging an R flex or even a senior flex or even a ladies flex. They refuse to do that because of the letter on the shaft. And so we replace that with a dot system to try and alleviate that. Our fitting chart is in there. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee, and then we do a lot of exchanges, because we want people to optimize. Your lead in, you were talking about the driver, you have a head, you have a shaft, and you have a grip. And the thing about the driver head is it's tapped out, right? USGA regulates the initial velocity coming off of a driver head, and we've maxed it out in the last several years. So, you can't go any faster by changing the club head, but you can go faster if you optimize your shaft. And so I highly recommend that. Give it a shot. You don't need to buy a brand new driver. If you have a relatively contemporary driver, they're just as good as most of the brand new clubs. And, I know I'm going to be hated for saying that, but that's just a reality.
That is the reality. NewtonGolfCo.com is the website. NewtonGolfCo.com is the website. So you guys can check out the putters. You guys can check out the shafts. You can make sure that you find what is just right for your game so that you're playing the best golf that you have ever played. And you can do it with Newton Golf. Aki, awesome to catch up with you again, my friend. Thank you so much for your time as ever. Thank you for the massive impact that you guys are having on the game for players of all ability levels because of the very wide array of shafts that you make for whatever speed you are about to impart. We wish you continued success, and we are very proud to represent you.
Great. Thank you so much.